Hello everyone, welcome back to English for All, brought to you by KDU TESOL practitioners. Our content is tailored for both teachers and learners. Today we have an exciting topic to explore, so let's get started. Today's video is all about inclusive teaching, specifically focusing on some valuable tips for teaching listening and speaking. Whether you're an experienced educator or just starting your teaching journey, these strategies will help you create an inclusive and supporting learning environment for all your students. Now, let's see what is meant by learning difficulties. Learning difficulties are challenges in learning that are related to how the brain processes information. There is no medicine to make them go away, but it is important to know that these difficulties do not mean someone is less smart. It just means they need different kinds of help and support to learn effectively. So now in this slide, you can see the most common types of specific learning difficulties such as dyspraxia, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and ADHD. So as I mentioned earlier, there is no cure for these learning difficulties, but there are ways to identify learners with learning difficulties, and there's a process for it. If you'd like to explore these topics in more detail, feel free to visit our YouTube channel, where you can find videos explaining more about learning difficulties, various types of learning difficulties, and valuable tips for teaching reading and writing. You'll find the link to these videos in the description below. Now I'm going to focus on effective inclusive teaching techniques which can be used when teaching listening. These tips will ensure that learners of all backgrounds and abilities can engage more actively. Here's our first tip. Avoid using words that sound very similar. It is important because when words have close sounds, it can be confusing for learners. For example, words like sheet and seat or ship and sheep may sound too much alike, especially for the learners with learning difficulties. By selecting words with distinct and unique sounds, we make the learning process easier. This simple adjustment can reduce confusion as well. Let's move on to our next tip, which can be used when teaching listening. Use visual aids with oral information. This means using visual elements like images, posters, or charts to complement what you're saying. These visuals can serve as a helpful support system, making it easier for learners to follow and understand the spoken content. This practice not only helps with comprehension, but also encourages active engagement in the listening process. Now, let's take a look at our third tip, which is pre-teaching vocabulary, including pronunciation. This step involves introducing and familiarizing learners with words and their correct pronunciation before diving into the main lesson. By doing so, you lay a solid foundation for comprehension. Our next technique is gradually increase the speed of speech and length of text. So, in the initial lessons, you need to start with a slower speech rate. This allows learners to get comfortable with the content. As you move forward, gradually increase the speed of speech. Similarly, you can also begin with shorter listening texts like 5 sentences in the first lesson. Then, in the following lesson, expand to 10 sentences. This step-by-step approach allows learners to adapt and progress at their own pace. Here's another important tip. Do not give students a task while they are listening to the audio clip initially. Let them focus on just listening without any additional work, which can help them better understand the content. With this method, students can fully concentrate on the content. It's like laying a strong foundation for understanding before moving on to any follow-up activities, which can enhance their overall comprehension and engagement. Keep in mind that while listening activities should be uncomplicated, like ticking the right answers or answering true or false questions, Complex activities, especially those involving both listening and reading or writing, can be challenging for learners with learning difficulties, as it requires them to use multiple skills simultaneously. Next tip is using authentic and interesting audio clips that are just right for your students. This will make them more excited to learn. It's like picking a fun story or a video that you enjoy. When they like what they are listening to, they pay more attention and learn better. So you should pick audio that matches the student's level and interests. And our final tip for teaching listening is to give students extra time to finish their tasks. This is really important, especially in inclusive teaching, because it helps everyone, including those who need more time to do their best. And remember, this is important not just for teaching listening, but also for teaching other skills as well. Next, let's move on to some valuable tips which can be used when teaching speaking. Let's take a look at our first tip. Encourage learners to give short responses. For example, when describing a picture, they can use simple sentences like, "It is a peach," or "There are coconut trees." This method helps learners, including those who may be less confident in speaking. This allows learners to practice without feeling too much pressure to say a lot at once. Here's the next tip. Allow learners to use aids while they are speaking, like cards with keywords or phrases. This can make speaking easier because they have a little extra support to express their thoughts and ideas. These cards act like helpful reminders. It's like having training wheels on a bicycle to help them balance while they learn to ride. Let's move on to the next tip. Practice pronunciation regularly. This means doing activities often that help you say words and sounds correctly. When you regularly do activities to improve pronunciation, your learners will get better at saying words more clearly and confidently. It's like exercising a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it becomes. This tip ensures that everyone, including those who may struggle with pronunciation, has the opportunity to enhance their speaking skills over time. Before you assign a speaking task, take some time to review the words and sentence patterns that your students will use. This review session ensures that they are well prepared and understand the language they need to speak. It's like a quick practice to make sure they remember what to say and how to say it correctly. When doing a speaking activity, it is important to give students enough time for planning, which includes organizing their ideas and practicing with their peers before they actually start speaking. This preparation time is like a roadmap for their speech. It helps them feel more confident and ready when it's their turn to talk because they have got the chance to plan and practice. It is essential to provide sufficient time for planning because organizing ideas can be a bit challenging for the learners with learning difficulties. So having extra time and working with peers helps them to do the speaking task more effectively. Another effective technique is allowing students to record themselves while doing their task, either through audio or video. This way, students can watch or listen to themselves afterward. It's like having a mirror to see how they did and what they can do better. This technique benefits all learners as it offers a chance for self-improvement. Our next tip is providing individual feedback. This is an important part of teaching. It means giving each student specific advice and comments based on their performance. This helps them understand what they are doing well and what they have to improve. Individual feedback is especially important in an inclusive classroom because it gives the guidance to each student's unique needs and abilities, ensuring that everyone can progress and succeed. Also, in an inclusive classroom, providing feedback in a visual format is particularly beneficial, especially for learners with specific learning difficulties. Visual feedback helps these learners to get a clear understanding of their performance. Some students may face challenges in understanding written feedback. Visual feedback becomes an essential alternative in such cases. It offers a more accessible way for these students to comprehend the feedback. And with that, we've come to the end of our video. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments down below. You can find some more informative videos, lessons and activities on our channel at TESOL KDU. Hit that subscribe button for more awesome content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.